going into different countries and being involved with new cultures, new foods, it definitely was a challenge, but it was definitely well worth the challenge.
I had the most trouble at the first week or two of every single country that we visited, getting used to the culture and the people, and the way that people interact with one another was different in different countries, and I guess I wasn't really expecting that. But I realized a pattern after the first couple of countries, that it would be the first few days or the first week that was the hardest, and then after adjusting, it got a lot easier, more fun.
It's just like moving around in the States. You got to get your routine down, and once you have your routine down, it's perfectly normal to every morning wake up and walk out and get a rickshaw to go to work.
Anything for you, Mary?
Yeah, there was definitely the shock of working with each new family that we were living with and getting to their routine, and it was really about finding that connection and then getting comfortable with each other, which took a while at first, but once you got there, it was a lot of fun.
I see. Now, do you think it goes the other way around too? Are these people pretty used to having visitors like yourselves, or are they kind of in this we don't know what we're really getting into, and they really scrutinize you for the first few days? Or
well, a few of our host families in each country were really used to having homestay kids. They would that was like part of their income, was hosting children, so they were used to having foreign students come in, but there was still an exchange period when we're trying to figure each other out. In Ecuador, though, they had never hosted people before, and so I think that it was as big of a culture shock for them as it was for us to see these Americans come in.
And the best experience for me was definitely my Ecuadorian host family. My host father was a poor plantain farmer, born and raised in this village, and every night we would have dinner and then end up talking for 2 hours in Spanish, just around the dinner table, about crazy topics. For example, why is there corruption in the world? And it's amazing to sit across from someone from a completely different culture and background and have a discussion on some universal topic. And I gained a lot from it, kind of seeing a different perspective, because he had a basic high school education, and by the community we stayed with, their standards, he was maybe the most educated man in the entire village. I think there were a total of 2 people out of 200 who had ever gotten a high school education, and the majority didn't make it past elementary school. Mm-hmm. So being in a community like that and seeing and interacting with people with almost no education, but still seeing the interest that they showed with some of these issues was amazing.
Yeah, in China, like I mentioned with my host mom, she and I lived alone. She didn't have a husband who lived with her because he was working outside of town. And because in the cities you can only have one child in China, and that child was at boarding school, so I rarely saw him. So it was just me and my host mom, and we really got to know each other for the 1 month that I was staying there. And it was very interesting and very powerful to be able to communicate without really language. So we would use gestures, and she would know a few English words, and I would really get to talk to her. And like Connor said, we would even talk about these issues like freedom, and I would explain to her what I do in America,
In China, I know for Rain and his host mom, my host mom, and me, we would have sort of this translator, a computer translator that would go back and forth between English and Chinese. So that definitely helped.
Oh, wow. So the question is, what's next for all of you? John, where are you going to college, and how have your year with TBV experience changed what you think you're going to study or the field of work you're going to go into?
I'm going to Harvard in the fall, and I've always been interested in economics and government, and I've seen a lot of different policy issues, a lot of room for economic growth in the developing world. So I'm really interested to dive into government classes and economic classes and come up with ideas, come up with solutions, and hope to bring proactive change.
Wonderful. What about you?
I'm going to Tufts University in the fall. As I mentioned earlier, I was talking about connectivity and how I learned about how the environment, public health, education, agriculture, the economy, and society are all connected. Before this trip, I was really into architecture and design, but I never really realized how related physical infrastructure is to development. So because of this trip, I'm going to go into architecture still, I think, but with more of a global sense and more of a sense of realizing impact on all of these different issues that I talked about. So for example, where do you get the materials for your building? Where does the energy come from? How does this impact all of those issues I mentioned?
Well, first, when I get home, I'm going to sleep for about a week.
Sounds good.
Then after the summer, I'm going to go to Yale University. And there I hope to study international relations. When I was a kid, I was infected with the travel bug, and it led me to go do things like TBB and go travel. And I want to continue to travel for my career. And so my year with TBB has built a foundation for my studies in an international field. I now have a much broader understanding of the world and of different societies, and I just hope to build off of that. And now I'm going to go into college much more focused and ready to immerse myself.
Okay. And just quickly, Rachel and Mary, where are you headed to after this?
I'm going to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I think I want to study public health and maybe nutrition as a result of our work in South Africa.
Okay.
And I'm going to Tulane University in New Orleans, and I want to study international development.
Great. So congratulations on completing your year with TVB, and thank you so much for being here and participating in this episode of News for Our Future. So viewers, if you want more information on Thinking Beyond Borders, go to thinkingbeyondborders.org, and to learn more about our tasks, please go to ourtask.org. I am Maria Takahashi, and see you on the next episode of News for Our Future.